Hey everyone, my name is Nicole, also known as Nikki Vegan, and in today's video I'm going to show you everything that I eat in a day as a vegan, travel edition and also budget edition, because traveling can be really expensive. Airport food in general can be very, very pricey, and so I went ahead and packed a lot of my favorite items to make sure that I was not only full and energized and satisfied, because you need a lot of energy when you're traveling, but also that allowed me to stick to a budget without feeling like I was really missing out. So I'm going to show you everything that I ate on the actual travel day. But I also filmed some clips while I was home of some of our family dinners and some of our favorite snacks and breakfast to help give you some good ideas, because I not only enjoyed those meals, but so did my friends and family. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. If you like what I eat in a day videos, please give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell notification so that you never miss a future video. And let's go ahead and get started with day one, which was the actual travel day. I went ahead and made kind of a version of my blueberry milkshake smoothie, which I will link below. It's one of my all-time favorite smoothies, and it really just involves some frozen and pantry ingredients, so you don't have to have anything fresh and have, you know, sort of random fresh ingredients left behind to go bad while you're away. I started with some pumpkin seeds because these are really high in protein, fiber, healthy fats, and also zinc, which I find is really good for my skin. I always feel like my skin looks a lot better when I'm regularly getting nuts and seeds that are rich in zinc. So I always make sure to add that because it's what helps make this smoothie really, really nutrient dense, as well as some frozen banana. On this day I had some random frozen cucumbers, some frozen blueberries, some frozen spinach, and then the last bit of the soy milk that I had on hand. I used a little bit in my coffee too, but I went ahead and I used that. Again, more protein helps to make this really, really creamy, really smooth, like a milkshake, and it also helps to make it more satisfying. Plus this soy milk that I use, the silk one, is fortified with B12 and vitamin D and some other good stuff as well, but I really just love how creamy it makes the smoothie. And then I went ahead and I added a little bit of cinnamon and some almond butter. Again, more vitamins, more minerals, more healthy fats, fiber, protein, all that good stuff. And this smoothie is a really great blend of those energizing carbohydrates, lots of vitamins, minerals, fiber to keep you full and feeling good, and also healthy fats and protein. So super ideal breakfast for a busy morning like this when I'm traveling. And a travel tip that I have for you guys is to always make sure that you have a shelf-stable milk in the pantry, your morning coffee ready to go, and stuff in the freezer and pantry like oats or, you know, frozen blueberries or stuff to make your favorite smoothie. And that way when you get back from the trip, you don't have to immediately run out to the grocery store and stock up in order to be able to make yourself your morning coffee and breakfast. So the smoothie was my first meal of the day, breakfast, and then I guess I had kind of like a second breakfast a couple hours later when I was on the plane. I meal prepped some of my healthy banana bread breakfast cookies in my last video, and I'll link the recipe in the description box below. But this is a really meal prep friendly way to make sure that you have a hearty, healthy breakfast if you're on the go, or if you're just feeling kind of lazy. I love to stock my freezer with them and then kind of reheat them as I want whenever I just don't feel like making breakfast, but I still want something that's really hearty and wholesome. I'll pop a couple in the microwave and serve them warm with a cup of coffee. Sometimes I'll have some fruit on the side or some coconut yogurt or something. Call it a day. It's super easy. And I have to say, these are much, much more delicious when they're served warm, like when you reheat the leftovers, but they're also fine just to take with you. And so that's what I did. I packed a couple of these in my backpack, and while I was on the plane, I sanitized my hands very well, and then I had 3 of these, I think, if I remember correctly. And they're a lot more hearty than you might think because they're made with oats, flax seeds, some almond butter, and they're naturally sweetened, and so they're actually really, really satiating. They're just like a nice little treat to have, especially when you're traveling on a plane. So I had that as kind of like my second meal of the day. When packing my lunch, I find that a good old-fashioned sandwich or wrap is not only really convenient, it's easy to transport, portable, but also it's a really good way to use up whatever odds and ends you have in the refrigerator. So on this day, I went ahead and grabbed some bread from the freezer. I like to keep it in the freezer so it stays nice and fresh, and I slathered it with my new favorite hummus. This is Ithaca hummus. I got it at Sprouts, and they have a lot of flavors that I like, but this one is the beet hummus, and it is so good, very lemony and super, super fresh tasting. So I put a thick layer of that because not only is it delicious, it adds lots of flavor to the sandwich, but it also is going to add, you know, fiber, carbs, protein, lots of good stuff. And again, it's just like this very, very delicious, vibrant, lemony, beety, pink spread that I can't get enough of. So I did a thick layer of that, and then I kind of just put whatever odds and ends were in the refrigerator that I wanted to use so they didn't go bad. I had some arugula that I wanted to use up, a little bit of cucumber and avocado left over from the night before. But I think the key, besides the hummus and the avocado, to really make it delicious is the pickle. There's just something about that zesty acidity next to, you know, like the creamy avocado and the creamy hummus. It just works so well, and it makes the sandwich taste about 1,000,000 times better. I went ahead and I wrapped this up really well, and then if you watched my last video, you might have seen that I made like this teriyaki tofu bowl, and so I had a little bit of teriyaki tofu cubes left over. Went ahead and added that too. I ended up having this as kind of a late lunch on my layover. I had a layover in Texas. The only thing I bought on this day was a big water just to stay nice and hydrated while I was flying, and also a hot tea. A travel hack I have for you though is if you are at a Starbucks, I feel like there's so many Starbucks at most airports, at least in the US, and you find, you know, that a cup of tea sounds really nice. I find especially after a meal when I'm traveling, a cup of warm herbal tea can be really nice just to help kind of like calm me down. It feels really kind of grounding when everything else is so chaotic, and I also think that it helps with digestion. Plus it's just cozy. Like anywhere I can sneak in something cozy, I do it. But when I'm at Starbucks and I get a grande hot tea, they always give you 2 bags, and that is part of the price. So if you say just do 1, they will actually give you the second tea bag unopened because you're paying for 2. So I prefer it that way because I find that 2 tea bags makes the tea really, really strong. I don't think it's necessary. So you're kind of getting like a 2 for 1. So a lot of times what I will do is I will get a hot tea. I will say, please, just 1 tea bag, and they will say, fine, no problem. They'll make the tea with the 1 tea bag and give me the other tea, and then I can put that in my purse or backpack, and then later on when I'm on the flight, I can ask for hot water and use the tea then, or I can get a hot water the next time I'm at, you know, whatever layover I have, if I'm at a train station or airport, and I end up getting 2 cups of tea for the price of 1. And I think that's a really cool travel hack. So just keep that in mind the next time you are getting tea at Starbucks. You're paying for 2, so separate them and you'll actually get 2. My flight got in pretty late, and so I didn't have like a real dinner on this day, but I thought it was important to show too because not every meal has to be perfectly balanced. So for dinner, I guess you could say on this night, we started by opening a bottle of wine and cheersing because we were celebrating being together. I haven't been home in such a long time because of the pandemic. My family lives really far away, and so we were just so happy to be home, and we cheers and we were cuddling with the dogs and kind of just hanging out in the kitchen around the counter having snacks, which is like my favorite place to be. So we had some wine and water because it had been a long travel day, and then we had some hippies because I love hippies, and my mom always has these like big Costco bags. And then I was kind of just eating whatever sounded good, and my mom always gets this really delicious bread from her local farmer's market, and so I don't know why, but just a big thick slice of that toasted, slathered in hummus just sounded ideal with like my wine and my snacks. So that's what I ended up having for dinner on this day, and it was really cozy and just kind of like a nice way to end a very long travel day. So the first family dinner that we made on this night was kind of like a vegan version of comfort food classics. We had some friends coming over, so I made everybody's favorite, which is like mashed potatoes, gravy, some crispy vegan chicken, and broccoli. To make the gravy, I just started by making a roux with some melted vegan butter and flour. I'll put the recipe in the description box below. But my mom had this 21 seasoning salute, which is a really nice blend of herbs and spices. If you don't have this, you can use poultry seasoning, salt and pepper. It will work really well also. But I like to add it in at this stage so that as soon as those herbs and spices hit the pan, they kind of bloom and come back to life and become super flavorful. And then I just add a little bit of low sodium veggie broth at a time. And I kind of use the back of my spoon to incorporate the liquid with the roux, with the flour. And as you can see, it really thickens before your eyes. Now I had to go ahead and actually change the pot to this stainless steel pot so I could whisk it. To add a nice depth of flavor, I do a little bit of mustard and also some tamari. This creates a nice umami background flavor and just makes the gravy really rich and savory. Then I just crisped up some Gardein chicken in the oven so it got nice and golden brown, super, super easy. And in the meantime, I just made some mashed potatoes. I made a lot of mashed potatoes actually. But I did this very simply with just some vegan butter, a splash of soy milk, and some salt and pepper until it was the consistency that I like, which is just a little bit chunky but mostly creamy, and then just kind of seasoned with salt and pepper to taste. We served this kind of family style and it was a big hit. Everybody loves crispy vegan chicken and mashed potatoes and broccoli. We had ketchup for some people, gravy for others, and it was awesome. And for dessert, we actually had this Marie Callender's pie. I don't know if you guys know this, but we did an episode of The Vegan View a while back of the kind of accidentally vegan pies you can find at the regular grocery store. And this mixed berry one from Marie Callender's is so good. We usually serve it with vegan vanilla ice cream, but on this day we had 2 different Ben & Jerry's flavors. And it was really fun to get to share this with some of our non-vegan friends. They were really impressed. This one doesn't really go with the pie, but it's just delicious. And it's kind of like a cookies and cream, but with a peanut butter swirl. And then for on top of the pie, we did this caramel almond brittle, which honestly is one of my new favorite ice creams. It has the best texture and it was so good with that flaky, buttery pie crust and then that like kind of jammy center. Oh, it was absolute heaven. Warm pie and ice cream doesn't get more cozy family style vibes than that. On the next night, we had some friends over and I decided to make kind of like a Mediterranean meal. So I pressed some tofu. I use a technique that is super simple. I actually learned from Jasmine and Chris over at Sweet Simple Vegan, and it's just to wash the tofu container and then carefully poke some holes in it. And then you're just going to set your block of tofu on top. And this way it will kind of allow the water that's in the tofu to drain out. So I put all of the containers in like a dish that has high sides to catch the water. And then I weigh it down by putting another pan on top with some books. You don't need it to be too heavy because if it's too heavy, the tofu will just kind of fall apart. But having that little bit of weight kind of evenly distributed helps to press the excess water out of the tofu, and you don't have to buy a fancy tofu press. I do that about an hour or so before I'm ready to cook dinner, and then I went through my mom's fridge and found a bunch of veggies, some sweet potatoes, some eggplants, some broccoli, mushrooms, and then I just did a couple of tray bakes, so super easy. For the first one, I had mushrooms, onions, garlic, like whole cloves of garlic, and sweet potatoes, and I just dressed that simply with a little bit of avocado oil, salt, and pepper. Mix that together, and then for the next one is the one that had all of the veggies. So I just did, again, avocado oil, and then that 21 seasoning salute that I absolutely love. It's so good. It has like onions, garlic, fresh herbs, and I did a little salt and pepper too. I ended up putting this in about 10 minutes after the first tray just because it didn't need to cook as long. And then for the tofu, I did a mix of the 21 seasoning salute, a little bit extra garlic, and then one of my favorite herbs, dill, and then just a little bit of cayenne pepper for kick. I mixed this together with a little bit of avocado oil and tossed it until it was really well coated. You want to be really generous with the seasonings here because it just gets so delicious in the oven as the veggies kind of caramelize and the tofu gets nice and kind of crispy and golden brown. I served this with some tzatziki sauce. This one from Trader Joe's is really good. There's also a nice plant-based one at Target. I made my tahini lemon sauce, which I will link in the description box below, and served this up with some cooked rice and quinoa. And I think the kind of thing that ties this all together is also having some fresh, crunchy ingredients that are kind of cold and contrast the warm, savory flavor. So we had cucumbers, tomatoes, some pickled sliced beets, some capers, and all of that with the tzatziki sauce and the tahini sauce was so good. All of the different roasted veggies, the tofu, and a little lemon wedge on the side kind of brings it to life. This was delicious and just another cozy night. For breakfast, most days we had a lot of fresh fruit. We went to Costco, and so we had a lot of nice summery berries. Most days I had either cereal or oatmeal with berries on top, but I also wanted to show you this apple thing that I made. We had a lot of apples on hand, so I just sliced them up and put them into a pot with some orange juice, maple syrup, cinnamon, and a handful of dried cranberries. And then once that was nice and soft, I served it with yogurt and a little bit of vegan granola. We get the granola from Costco, and I actually filmed a Costco haul while I was in Florida. I asked you guys on Instagram, what I should pick up, and I got so many great suggestions. So I do have all of that footage, and I'm going to be putting up that Costco haul very soon. But this is also really delicious spooned over ice cream or just on its own as a snack. Now, this was our favorite thing that we made pretty much the whole trip. It's leftover mashed potato croquettes. So you just take your mashed potatoes, you season it with a little bit of really whatever you like. I did, again, the 21 seasoning salute, a little bit of flour just to make it a bit thicker, and then some nutritional yeast. You can season it to taste, but then you're just going to dredge it in some almond milk, and then your dry ingredients is just going to be some panko breadcrumbs. And for the breadcrumbs, I went ahead and seasoned with adobo seasoning, but again, you could do the same 21 Salute or whatever herbs and spices you like. This has oregano, garlic, salt, and pepper. I added a little bit more garlic and then just a touch of nutritional yeast into the actual breadcrumbs to make sure that they were super flavorful. Oh, and salt and pepper too. Then I just took the mashed potato mixture and I went ahead and I dipped it in the almond milk, and then I dredged it very generously in the panko breadcrumbs, which I love because it makes the outside of the potato very, very crispy. So you have this like creamy mashed potato on the inside that's nicely seasoned, and then you kind of pan fry it so the outside gets nice and crispy. And then I baked this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes at 375. Basically just while I put the rest of the meal together, which was salad, sauteed mushrooms and onions, and then Beyond Burgers, which we also picked up from Costco. So we had kind of like a burger in a bowl, but instead of having, you know, like roasted potatoes, we had the crispy potato croquettes, and they were so good. And even my mom's dogs were just like so curious about what we were eating. They definitely wanted us to share, and it was probably my favorite thing that we made. I hope that you enjoyed this What I Eat in a Day video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up because that really helps more people find my channel. And go ahead and share this video with a friend or family member who may be traveling or just kind of stuck on ideas like what to make as a vegan, or if they're interested in eating plant-based foods. Hopefully this will be helpful to them as well. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification next to it, and I will see you in a video very soon. Bye!